welcome to another edition of the HS Game Time Live Blitz. I'm Pep Fernandez, and everyone knows he's the big ticket by now. Even Chris Telemavau from Vianney's dad at Centennial knows you're the big ticket, KG.
Apparently, my name's been replaced.
That's a good thing to have a popular nickname that everybody knows by now. But Kyle, it's the final week of the regular season for high school basketball as well as soccer, and a lot of teams, we know who the league champions will be, but a lot of teams still jockeying for that position in terms of getting into the playoffs.
Absolutely, and a lot of times it's good teams just playing in tough leagues. You look at the Big Eight, for example. King and Roosevelt have been two teams in the HS Game Time top 10 most of the year. They're fighting it out for third place. One of them is going to have to petition for an at-large berth. You go across the league, Sun Belt League, River Valley League, Southwestern League even, Citrus Belt League. You're going to have teams really have their playoff lives coming down to the last day of the season, and really you wouldn't want it any other way.
All right, let's start with the Mountain Valley real quick. We'll run down some of these. Harupa Hills currently in front, right? But Citrus Valley right there on their heels.
Yeah, and those two teams split the league title last year. Now, Harupa Hills is a game up. They control their own destiny. They've already played Citrus Valley twice and split with them. So Harupa Hills just wins out. They're league champs, but as we all know, crazy things happen. Notre Dame at 5-3 is actually still in the race. They're 2 games back with 2 to play. They play Harupa Hills, so they have a chance to really make some something happen. We could see a 3-way tie. That scenario is still in play for that league.
And I've always said this: you can never count out Notre Dame.
Absolutely.
Words to live by. Okay, also in the Ambassador League, I know our boy Daryl Trujillo was hitting us up on Twitter. You guys going to talk about Woodcrest Christian? Yes, because it's one of the best races right now.
Absolutely. They had a thrilling victory the other night over Western Christian at the buzzer, 60-58. They are currently tied with Ontario Christian for first place in the Ambassador League with 1 game to play. So Woodcrest Christian, if they win, they can either get a share of the title or potentially win it outright. They play Aquinas on Thursday. It's a game they should win, but it's on the road. It's a rivalry game, so anything can happen. But Woodcrest Christian, I mean, 2 years ago, they were almost winless over the entire course of the season, and here they are in position to clinch at least a share of the league title.
That is quite the turnaround. Now, how about Kaiser? Now, we know they've had a pretty good football team the last couple of years. Now Kaiser competing for a Sunkist League championship in basketball, but they got to get past Summit. And does it boil down to just a single game now?
It boils down to a single game on Thursday. Kaiser and Summit, the winner clinches the outright Sunkist League title. They're both 7-2 in league, and it really is just, this is what it's all about. You want to have that one final game where it just determines everything.
A true league title game, right?
Right. No shares, no ifs, ands, or buts. Just win and you get the title. It's that simple. And this is the only game in the entire inland area where that is the case. We have, 1 game to determine our one true champion.
All right, so those are some of the leagues that are, it's getting kind of dicey here with the last couple of games of the regular season. We are live at Adrenaline Athletic Training in Corona. I know they're going to start the boot camp.
We're in Riverside today.
We're in Riverside, yeah. Last week we were in Corona. They were great down there, and we're back in Riverside, which is not far from the Press Enterprise headquarters now, so we're especially glad to be here. And I saw Leonard Russell around here. We need to congratulate Leonard. He was inducted into the Mount Sac College Hall of Fame over the weekend, so and for good reason. I mean, he's one of the best running backs ever.
Yeah, I mean, NFL Rookie of the Year, anytime you have a guy with that level of success, the alma maters always want to honor them.
All right, Kyle, so we got to thank Adrenaline one more time for hosting us once again here on the Blitz. Now let's jump back into basketball, another league title race. Let's talk about the Citrus Belt. Is it Eisenhower's to win at this point?
Yes, Eisenhower already has a share of the league title. Their 7th straight year where they have at least a share. They can clinch it and make it outright tonight if they beat Miller. That's where I'm actually heading to after we finish this broadcast. I'll be up at that game. And then if they can't do that, they'll have another chance on Friday. So Ike really has 2 shots to win the outright Citrus Belt League title.
And the Rebels, Kyle, are they the only team within striking distance of Ike right now?
No, so Miller and Cajon are tied at 5-3. Both of them can get to Ike. It'd be a thing where Ike has to lose their final 2. Miller and Cajon would both have to win their final 2 in order to create any sort of tie or potentially 3-way tie as well. But Eisenhower beat Miller by 23 points the last time they played, and that was at Miller. Tonight, Ike is at home with a chance to really seal the deal, and it's pretty good odds they'll do it.
All right, so Ike already a co-champion, but Miller in a good situation. At least they get to go head-to-head with that team they're trying to chase down.
Absolutely. I want to jump back to Ike real quick. It's really impressive that they're in this position when you consider everything that happened. Last year, Steve Johnson, their legendary head coach, getting shot late in January. Then they went 4-4 down the stretch. I mean, it wasn't the best finish. And this year, they were off to a 7-9 start, 1-1 in league. I mean, there was nothing to suggest that, hey, this is a team that can really rally and win. They just weren't playing well, whether they're playing tough opponents or not so tough opponents. But they figured it out right in time for the meat of league play. They've rolled off 6 straight league victories. It's really been an impressive turnaround over the past month for the Eagles.
Now, I didn't hear you mention Redlands East Valley. Now, the Wildcats, we thought, I don't know if they were the favorite, but certainly one of the favorites to win the league championship. Where are they at?
They were 17-4, 4-0 in league. And
look great, right?
Yeah, then they lost 4 straight, almost out of nowhere. They're going to play Redlands tonight, big rivalry game to try and end that skid. But Rev's fallen out of it. I mean, they can't clinch a league title anymore, and they have to pray for some other things to happen just to make the playoffs. They have to play Redlands tonight, and they have to finish up with Ike on Friday, and they have to win probably both in order to really feel secure in their ability to get an automatic playoff berth and not have to petition. And it's strange. They were all the way up to a number 7 or 8 ranking in Division 2A.
Yeah. Now
they're on the verge of dropping out.
All right, in the Sun Belt League, as expected, the two teams that kind of the cream of the crop in the Sun Belt, Elsinore and Paris, right now tied for the league championship, and it looks like they're going to finish that way, right?
Yeah, they already split their meetings this year. Last year was the same thing. They both went 9-1, each handing each other a loss, and it looks like it's going to be a case of deja vu all over again. And it's interesting because Paris lost a lot. LZ Poolanders, their coach, left. Tristan Hunter, who was considered their big star, transferred to a prep academy. So, they lost some pieces, and the Panthers are still able to be in position to clinch a share league title with a very good Elsinore program. Says a lot about the Panthers and the job first-year coach Jared Manville's done.
All right, and over in the Mountain Pass League, congratulations to Tockwitz, right? Already securing at least the co-championship. But Hemet, though, just one game back with a game to go.
Yeah, so once again, Tockwitz is in a similar situation as Eisenhower and a similar situation as Frupa Hills. They're a game up with 2 to play. All they have to do is win, and they're the outright champions. For the most part, I think they're scheduled to play Beaumont. Tockwitz will be favored. And the Titans, anything can happen. But Hemet did hurt themselves with another loss earlier in the year. They're 6-2. They were the favorites coming in. Tockwitz, we knew they had a really good player in Nick Pete. We didn't
big guy, right? The big guy.
6'8", but we didn't know what was around him. But as Alan Steele wrote last night, they've only have 2 seniors. So they won a co-championship, and they're probably going to win the outright championship. And they're mostly all going to be back next year. Tockwitz is one of those programs on the rise, and they're ranked right now in their division fairly highly.
All right, so we're talking about league title contenders, but Kyle, what about some of these teams who are really just towing that line of on the bubble of making the playoffs or not making the playoffs, like in a battle for third place in their league? How about let's go to the Big 8 League first. We got Centennial and Corona on top, right?
Yep.
Is it King and Roosevelt right there?
It's King and Roosevelt, and they're going to play each other last game of the season. That'll be huge. We have Banning and Notre Dame, the Mountain Valley League, fighting it out there. CBL, we mentioned, Cajon, Miller, and Rev all kind of fighting. Those are going to be games to watch. There's going to be a lot of head-to-head matchups amongst all those teams. Another one that's going to be good in the River Valley League, Hoopa Valley versus Norte Vista. Patriot versus Norte Vista for third place and the automatic playoff berth. Lakeside as well, down in the Sun Belt League. They could potentially finish 10-17, but still reach the playoffs as an automatic playoff berth.
Third place in their league. Is the Southwestern League set? Do we have Temecula Valley, Great Oak, and Murrieta Valley? Is that pretty much how we're looking to finish the year?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, which, it was sort of expected. I think some people thought that Murrieta Valley would do better than they've done, but those were the 3 teams that were expected to really be on top. It's going to be interesting to see how they all contend come playoff time. Particularly Temecula Valley. They interest me because they're red hot. They have, on most nights, they're going to have the best player on the floor in Justin Simon. Yeah. And with the new Open Division, they're ranked number 4 in 1A right now. Well, North's going to go to the Open Division. Probably, some of the other teams that are ranked right there. So TV could open up as the number 1 or 2 overall seed in the 1A playoff bracket. So it'll be really interesting to see if the Golden Bears can, go from being, I think, 4-6 in league to CIF semifinalists, champions. I mean, it's
At
not
least,
out of the realm of possibility, and that's a testament because all that really happened was they gained Justin Simon, and that's the difference he's made.
Yeah, I think we're assuming JW North will go in that open division. We'll find out on Friday. Their record speaks for itself, and of course they have the name JW North, which goes a long ways because they traditionally are a very good basketball team.
And what's going to help them is they've been bumped up to number 11 in the state rankings by Cal High Sports. They have some really good wins over Bishop Montgomery and Folsom, who are both ranked in that state top 20. So even though North isn't in 1AA, which is the creme de la creme, they have the wins, they have the state ranking. You know, Centennial's a shoo-in. North's pretty much a shoo-in too. Right now, the word is the open division is going to take 12 teams, and if that is the number they take, North and Centennial will both be in. If they only take 8, North is on a little bit shakier ground, but I think they're still probably in.
A North Temecula Valley finals in 1A would be awesome. But speaking of Temecula Valley, Jeff Perini, as we've said this many times on the Blitz, covers the Southwestern League like no other. He's all over the place. He's around from each school, and he eats, breathes, lives basketball. And he shot some video last night of Great Oak and Temecula Valley. So let's set this up, Kyle. Golden Bears on the road at Great Oak. Temecula Valley up by 2 in the final seconds. I think there's about 19 seconds to go. Let's roll the video now. So Great Oak gets the ball. And Jeff tells us Latrell Franklin brings the ball up court, 19 seconds to go. He puts up the three-point attempt, but he actually loses the ball on the way up. Justin Simon tracks it down, and Justin Simon throws it down. The big-time dunk there for Golden Valley, Temecula Valley. That puts them up by 4, and that's the way it ends. And if you can see the video here, Kyle, Temecula Valley had their fans, not too far from Great Oak, make that trip to the enemy's campus, and they stormed the court because that, essentially clinched the outright Southwestern League title for them. And as you mentioned, Justin Simon, they got the Schaefer brothers. I mean, this is a very good team that could go very deep in the CIF playoffs.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent there. You mentioned the Schaefer brothers. Xavier Harris has become a very good player who's now a 2-star recruit for the class of 2015. But big-time players make big-time plays, and we saw Justin Simon make the play to really seal the game, and it was more than the game. It's a rivalry game. They're on the road, hostile environment, outright league championship hanging in the balance, and it really just was exactly what you want to see out of your best player at the key moment.
All right, Kyle, so we're here live at Adrenaline Athletic Training. We've got a lot more basketball to talk about here. We're going to maybe talk Player of the Year, at least for regular season. We'll see how the playoffs play out. And also, we're going to give some credit to the JW North boys soccer team, still undefeated in league, and by all accounts, kind of came out of the blue to have such a great league season. So we're going to hear from them in a little bit. But first, let's go back to North basketball. They'd already wrapped up the Inland Valley League Championship, but they had senior night, and they were also taking on their big rival, Riverside Poly, and the place was packed last night on the campus of JW North. So let's check out the highlights as the Huskies remained undefeated on the courts this season with a big win against their rival.
Let's hoop it up at JW North. The Huskies have not lost a game on the court this year. The Inland Valley champs taking on rival Riverside Poly. The Huskies are on the watch list for the CIF Open Division playoffs. We'll find out on Friday if North will be included. Huskies head coach Mike Barty, the winningest coach in Inland Empire history. North superstar Deshaun Taylor is one of the leading scorers in the Inland area, and he had the hot hand early against the Bears. The floater falls, and then it's Taylor firing from long range. He's a changed man. Look at the range, man. Taylor sinks the deep 3-ball, and Taylor can run the floor too in transition. Isaiah Clark finds Taylor on the break, hammers it home. Now it's North on the inbounds pass later in the first quarter. Mijo Mendoza from 3 City sinks the triple. We haven't even mentioned Dikembe Martin yet. The super sophomore pulls up for the jumper and knocks it down. North up by 5. The Bears were in for a battle. Here's Poly's Juan Eason, the one and only, getting the basket down low. But Poly had a tough time stopping Dikembe Martin. No, not today. Martin the basket. The Huskies push their lead to 8 in the second quarter when Clark grabs this board and gets the putback. And time now for more Martin. The Huskies work the ball to Dikembe, who lets it fly from downtown. Count it! The tray for Martin. And here comes the hoop and the harm on this basket for Martin as North rolls 58-38 the final. The Huskies improved to 22-2 on the season. Their only losses on the year were forfeits. I'm Pep Fernandez for HS Game Time and PE.com.
And Kyle, as I mentioned in the highlights, Mike Barty, who you saw, the Inland Empire is winning his coach. He did it a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and we were talking about a little bit. One of the things that makes him such a great coach is he's been able to find ways to win no matter what his team is made up of physically. Last year, Marcus Baugh, Dorian Butler, Adrian Hughes, these were big guys, 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". They don't really have anyone like that this year. Isaiah Clark and Christian Gray are big in the middle, but not quite the same. They're a guard-heavy team. Their backcourt is the key this time around, and they're still winning games. And I think that's the sign of a great coach. He wins no matter who he's got, and he develops the skills and finds the game plan to really let everyone play to their strengths.
All right, so like North clinching their outright league championship, La Sierra did the same in the River Valley League. For the second straight year, they are the league champions. Last year, they shared it with Harupa Valley. Justin Norman, we caught up with him and talked about the success of the Eagles and also going forward, if this team has a deep playoff run still left in there.
Yeah, defensively, that's what we're really trying to key on because, we have the athleticism and the guards to really push teams out of their comfort zone. So that's really what we're looking for, and if we can get out in transition and run and make the game exciting, that's all the better for us. And if we have to break it down to half court, we can do that as well. But defensively is where we've hung our hat all year, and our goal is to keep teams under 40 every game. So.
Yeah, we were just talking. La Sierra had a tough draw last year with Santiago in the first round.
Yeah, it's one of those things where because they play in one of the higher divisions, they're always going to get a tough opponent. And the River Valley League is not made up of the same caliber of teams as, say, some of those Big 8 programs or Southwestern League programs. So it's going to be interesting to see how La Sierra adjusts. They were co-champs last year and then suffered a first-round playoff loss. Maybe they'll learn from that. A lot of guys from that team return. And, we'll see. La Sierra has had an excellent season in league. They had some good non-league wins as well. But you look at situations where they lost to Marietta Mesa, who's, 5th place in their league, or barely beating Norco, who's, 5th place in the Big 8. It shows that there's sort of that discrepancy in talent, and we see it time and time again. A lot of times teams have a hard time switching into a new gear after, a month, 2 months of playing a certain level of opponent in their own league.
All right, Kyle, we're wrapping up the regular season in basketball this week. I know we want to see how the playoffs kind of unfold here, but let's go ahead and throw out some names when we're talking about our HS Game Time Player of the Year. Of course, we hunker down in the war room and we all have votes and we at the end of the season. But right now, it's off the top of your head, who are some guys that you just see carrying their teams and they'll continue to as the playoffs roll on?
We talked about Justin Simon. He's got to be in the conversation. Deshaun Taylor has been North's leading scorer and really the guy that, the Huskies go as he goes.
Yes.
Those are two guys. And then over at Centennial, there's guys who might have actually split votes. Deontay
That's
North
the thing.
and Cedric
They've got
Bearfield.
so many good players.
Right. Deontay North and Cedric Bearfield, I think, are both going to be in the conversation. I think right now those are the four you really
What
have
about
to
Ethan
consider.
Alvano?
Ethan Alvano is also right there. I think he's been just incredibly valuable to his team. I think there's no doubt he's one of the 5 or 6 best players in the area. But I think a lot of it is going to come down to the postseason and how things shake out. And I think right now the money would be on Centennial or North or Temecula Valley to have, maybe a deeper, longer playoff run. But don't count Corona out. These guys can play. They've taken Centennial. They've pushed them to the limit. They've beaten a lot of good teams already. I think the Panthers are definitely in the conversation, and thus Ethan Alvano will be in the conversation.
Yeah, Justin Simon, for example, he just does so much for Temecula Valley. A big guy who rebounds. He's a point guard. He scores.
Right.
He just does a little bit of everything, and he does it well.
18 points, almost 10 rebounds, 5 assists a game. Just that well-roundedness that you want to see out of a potential player of the year. That really, I think, is what helps separate him from some of the others. A lot of those other guys do 2 of the 3 things well. He does all 3.
In terms of just pure score, now I saw Deshaun Taylor last night against Riverside Poly, and you could tell he was out to set the tone from the very tip. He had a basket, hit a 3-pointer, and then it threw down a dunk, and the place went nuts. And it was kind of like the avalanche started against Riverside Poly. So in terms of just pure scores, where do you think Deshaun Taylor stacks up?
Well, he's second in the Inland Empire, in the Inland area in scoring and points per game for a reason. And really, he's doing it against much tougher opponents than the guy ahead of him is. So, yeah, he knows how to, put points on the board. And what I like about him is when he's having a cold day shooting, he still finds a way to get to the free throw line and get those easy points. He's automatic from the line, which is such an underrated and underappreciated skill. It's amazing how many games really could be decided by free throws, yet some coaches seem to dismiss them. And he just does a great job. I've been at games where he starts off cold, as happens with pure shooters, but he's still able to get to the line, nail his free throws, and that helps him get into his rhythm offensively.
Once again, we are live at Adrenaline Athletic Training in Riverside this week. We've got some young basketball stars behind us on the court warming up. And I saw Clifton, the basketball coach here at Adrenaline. He was very excited to work with some of these kids. And who knows, we might be talking about some of these kids in a couple of years right here on the Blitz. Okay, Kyle, let's go back to the Open Division. It's a new thing for CIF. And it's a good thing, right? Or is it a team like North who, they're probably going to be put in the Open Division, but would they rather stay back and try to defend their section championship?
Mike Partee has been very vocal about it. He doesn't like the Open Division. He'd rather stay in Division 1A. Well, actually, they were in Division 2AA last year, so
yeah.
I don't think he even was thrilled about getting moved up. But it just depends. Different coaches will tell you different things. Some like it, some don't. Me personally, I have mixed feelings about it because I think the CIF already awards way too many championships in basketball. I mean, you're talking about, I think, 13 different teams to say, we're CIF champs. Now you're adding another one. I think adding an Open Division was fine, but I think you need to take away one or two playoff divisions. I think in a perfect world they'd have 5 division champions and an Open Division champ, as opposed to the, whatever they're at now, 12, 13. It's just, it kind of cheapens the term champion. The other issue I kind of have with it is if you're in Division 1AA, some team is going to be able to say, we're Division 1AA champions without ever have to face Etiwanda, Modern Day, Centennial. I mean, these power programs. And to me, it kind of cheapens it a little bit because now you're going to see a team in the CIF record books as CIF Southern Section 1AA champion next to those Etiwanda and Modern Day teams that were truly great and be like, okay, you're a good team, but without having to play those guys, you're not really the champion. So I think.
Were you okay with it when they had a section champion for the different divisions, and you get to the state playoffs and have an Open in the state playoffs? I mean,
yes.
Does that make more sense to you?
I think it makes more sense to me because once you're talking about the state, I mean, CIF State has 1,500 teams, and it is kind of cool to see who's the best of the best, regardless of enrollment. We're talking about the section, even one as big as the Southern section. There's pros and cons, and like I said, it's not the Open Division itself I think was necessarily a bad idea. I don't like adding the Open Division on top of the already 12, 13 championships being awarded.
All right, so we've talked about Centennial, North, our best shots again in the Open Division, which will be announced on Friday. How about on the girls' side? What teams are we looking at to possibly get into this Open Division?
Canyon Springs has been the team that probably has the best chance. They're defending champ. They've had a great run through the Inland Valley League this year, a strong, respected league. And Sharnea Johnson-Chapman and Cheyenne Greenhouse are two of the premier players in the inland area. So they're going to give Canyon Springs a great shot. You also have Vista Marietta. They came in, and Great Oak, I think, was initially the team a lot of people were saying, oh, that's the team to beat down south. But Vista Marietta beat him twice. And now the Broncos is the team that everyone's looking for to represent the South in the Open Division. I think, we're going to get 2 boys teams. We're not going to get a third. I think we're probably going to get 2 girls teams as well. There's some others on the watch list, but at the end of the day, I really think it'll be Vista and Canyon Springs with the best chance to get into the Open Division.
Centennial versus North, boys head-to-head. Any thoughts? If for some reason they crossed paths in the brackets?
I mean, it'd be a lot of fun. I try not to get too involved in theoretical matchups. I'll say this. I think that having seen both teams, I think both are capable of winning. I don't think it would be a situation where one team would beat the other 9 out of 10. I think you have to give Centennial a slight advantage, just because they play in a tougher division. They've played a tougher non-league schedule and done so well. I think they're also a little bit deeper, but both teams are deep. At the end of the day, there'd be other factors in play, but it'd be a heck of a matchup, that's for sure.
Plenty of star power on the court as well. Deshaun Taylor, Cedric Bearfield, and he's mentioned Deontay North.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go back to girls basketball, and we're talking the Big 8 League, and we're not really talking about Santiago. Is there something wrong here?
You know what? Just obviously, there was going to be a huge loss with Crochet Row, but then Monique Billings has been in and out of the lineup with injury. I mean, the Sharks won 77 straight Big 8 League games, and they're 3-6 this year. I think people could have expected a little bit of a come down. I mean, everything they did last year, Division 1 AA champion, making it as far as they did in the regional playoffs. But I don't think anyone saw 6 league losses coming. But, it just goes to show it happens. It's high school. Players are still learning to play the game, and a couple injuries here, and just it can happen to any team where you're great one year and the next year it's a down year. It's just part of life.
So Norco coming off a big 53-51 victory against King last night. So now as we head into the final game for Big 8, it's Norco and Centennial, both at 7-2 atop the league. As you mentioned, from year to year, it's hard to say, but Santiago had, I think it was 77 straight Big 8 victories prior to this season. So we'll see how the Sharks will likely still get into the playoffs, it sounds like.
It's not guaranteed. I mean, they're probably going to have to petition for an at-large berth because they're not going to be in the top 3 in their own league. And just because of, the name, and there's still some star power there.
They might get in.
They might get in, but at the same time, it's a very weird situation for them to be in. And also, on the flip side, Norco and Centennial have to be thrilled. I mean, they haven't really been able to compete for a Big 8 league title in years with Santiago's dominance.
That's right.
This is exciting for those players, their coaches, their student bodies to say, hey, we have a chance to do something that the schools haven't done, if you think about it, since the players were 10, or 12. I mean, it's been a while.
All right, over in the Inland Valley League, when we were talking about Canyon Springs, they're 1 game up against Valley View, and they play head-to-head on Thursday night. But as we mentioned, Canyon Springs looks like they'll cruise to that Inland Valley title.
Valley View's been pretty good. I mean, they've really surprised some people this year. They've been great on the boards. And the Eagles, I think Moreno Valley sometimes gets lost in the fold a little bit. Boys basketball, with the exception of Rancho Verde, the schools out there haven't been great in terms of the top level of play. But in girls basketball, Valley View and Canyon Springs have provided a nice little 1-2 depth punch out there.
All right, let's go on to just sports in general in terms of the best playoff races right now. Teams fighting for league championships, teams trying to get, sneak into the playoffs here. And I'll start with because we've talked about this several times, the Southwestern League girls soccer standings. And prior to last night, we had 3 teams all still in the hunt, still within striking range. Chaparral 6-1-1, Temecula Valley 5-2-1, and Vista Marietta at 5-2-1 as well. I know Temecula Valley earned a tie last night against Great Oak, so Chaparral 1 game up on those other schools with just 1 to play. And those are 3, Kyle, of our top 5 teams in our HS Game Time girls soccer ranking. So the Southwestern League loaded with talent, 3 of the top 5, and it's going to be a dogfight down to that, at least that final game. In Chaparral, I think a lot of people were putting, Temecula Valley and Great Oak as the 2 top teams, and here's Chaparral. I love it when a team, I don't know if you want to call them a sleeper team or a dark horse, but they came and kind of snubbed some of the bigger high-profile schools that a lot of people were picking to win league.
For a while, we talked about the Golden Bears were looking invincible off to that undefeated start, outscoring opponents 79-5 at one point. But it's a long season, and once you get into league play and rivalry games, and especially in a game like soccer where literally a quarter of an inch can make the difference between a game-winning goal and a heartbreaking loss. So Chaparral, I mean, give them credit. You don't win the Southwestern League without being a really, really, really good team. And I think the Pumas have proven that, they deserve to be in that elite consideration. Their record has shown it.
All right, now another great race to make the playoffs and win league title. Would you put the Citrus Belt boys basketball race in there?
I don't think it's as exciting actually as the Mountain Valley League, because the Citrus Belt, it's been kind of wrapped up, and it'll probably get wrapped up tonight. Mountain Valley, anything can still happen. I mean, there's certain probabilities, but with Notre Dame playing Harupa Hills, that's going to be interesting, and then you've got Citrus Valley right in the middle. I mean, they are a winning program who's really dominated the league the last few years. I think there's absolutely a chance this thing could get really wacky.
What about the girls' Big 8? We just touched on it. Santiago's not in the mix. Some of these other schools have emerged to the top of the Big 8. Pretty good race?
Absolutely. Anytime you're talking about the Big 8 in pretty much any sport, you're really talking about the best of the best, really in the Inland Empire. I mean, Southwestern, Big 8, and the Baseline, for the most part, are kind of the best leagues in any sport in the entire Inland Empire. So a great race. Norco and Centennial, 2 schools who have a lot of history in other sports. Now they've got a chance to develop that girls' basketball rivalry.
And let me throw another one out there. Sunkist boys basketball. We're talking about a true league championship game. We've got one in the Sunkist.
We absolutely do. We talked about it before.
And I mentioned Grand Terrace too.
Yeah, well, Kaiser beat Grand Terrace last night to kind of eliminate them, but Grand Terrace and Colton are fighting it out for third. And there's some history on the line. You know, Summit won a bunch of league titles in a row, and then didn't get it last year for the first time in forever. Well, so they're trying to return, and Kaiser's never won a boys basketball title in school history. So history could be in the making.
All right, and I'll throw out the Mountain Pass girls soccer as well. Hemet had a one-game lead against Beaumont. They played head-to-head last night. Hemet won 2-1, so now they have a comfortable cushion on Beaumont, 2 games, but only 1 on Tockwitz, and they both play on Thursday. So if Hemet lost and Tockwitz won, we'd have a co-league championship for Mountain Pass League girls.
We also have the Big 8 Girls Water Polo Carousel tournament going on. I mean, that's something, the championship, I believe, is on Thursday. Our esteemed water polo writer, Eric Paul Johnson, will be out there, but once again, you talk about great programs, a lot of success, and it should be fun to see how that one ends up.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear EPJ say, oh yeah, I think this team might be the favorite, and he comes in, well, they lost, and oh, I think this team now is going to step up and take their spot. Well, that team lost, so it's kind of been one of those, as Jeff Parenti would call it, a meat grinder, where every team just takes turns beating each other up.
Definitely, and you gotta love that competitive balance. While on the one hand it is cool to see schools really dominate year in and year out, like Corona Centennial, Vista Marietta football in their leagues, it's also really fun when you've got 5 or 6 teams that can really beat each other on any given day.
All right, in terms of boys soccer in the Inland Valley League, in terms of beating each other up, there was a couple teams who would beat everyone else up. It was Riverside Poly. Valley View was another school that's had a lot of success in the last couple of years. But lo and behold, it was JW North coming from out of nowhere. They're still unbeaten in league play after earning a draw with Riverside Poly last night. So the Huskies already your Inland Valley League champions, and they're hoping to cap off a perfect season in league play, at least no losses. So here's some highlights of North taking on Riverside Poly last night. The game ends in a 1-1 draw.
JW North, the Inland Valley League champion, looking to stay unbeaten in IVL action, taking on rival Riverside Poly in another edition of El Clasico. First half, the Bears get on the board first. Great pass, and this ball is slotted inside the far post. 1-0 Riverside Poly. The Bears lost to North 6-2 the first time through league play, but they grabbed the early lead. Later in the first half, the Huskies were knocking on the door. Alan Lara looking for Armstrong Meffers on the cross, but Poly keeper Jesus Meza is there as the Bears take their 1-0 lead into the half. There was a record-setting soccer crowd in the New North Stadium, and the fans did not give up hope on their Huskies. Late in the match, Christian Chavez with a free kick. Brandon Cardenas gets a foot on it, and the ball finds the boot of number 16, who rips a left-footed shot into the side netting as North levels the match at 1 apiece. And that's how this one ends, 1-1, as North remains unbeaten in the Inland Valley League, now 10-0-1 in league play.
Yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment, to be honest, but the boys played good, and we were able to rest some of our players that needed to rest for CIF because of injuries and that type of thing. So it was a good match. I think that Poly improved immensely, and taking nothing against Poly, the first game was 6-2. They came out at our place in front of a record crowd and stayed right with the boys. So I'm very proud of Poly, and good job and good luck to them in CIF.
You're already the Inland Valley League champion, looking ahead to playoffs. How do you think your team's playing at this point? You feel pretty good about going into the postseason?
Oh, yes. There's just a few things that we need to work on, and the boys will go hopefully deep into CIF. This is probably one of the most promising teams we've ever had.
Now, Coach, what do you think it was when you guys just turned it on for IVL play? I mean, it seems like you guys were a different club. I mean, is this something that you saw the whole time, or are you kind of surprised at how you guys are doing right now?
No, it was something that we were working towards, and league was important to get to playoffs, and now it's playoffs. A league title's one thing, but a CIF championship's a whole other deal. The Inland Valley, the teams from the Inland Valley play in Division I, which is the toughest division, and it'll be something to bring that home to Riverside for all the soccer fans here in Riverside.
And do you know the last time North has won a league championship in boys soccer?
It's been about 10 years since North won a championship. It's been a bit of a rebuilding with new schools opening like King. It changed the makeup of the team, and it took a little bit to rebuild and get them going. This stadium is helping immensely because it allows us to have a place to practice. North doesn't have a lot of practice fields, and so this gave us a great opportunity to do that.
Well, Kyle, we had to give some love to the North boys soccer team, getting it done all season long. And I'll tell you this story. I saw them play La Sierra. I think it was the second or third game of the season, and La Sierra beat them 5-0. And I was like, ooh, this might be a long season for the Huskies. And Coach said, league play got a little bit closer, and they started improving, and they got to league play Inland Valley, and they just flipped the switch. They just really turned it on, put it all together, and now they're 10 wins, no losses, in that one tie with Riverside Poly last night.
Yeah, we see that every year in a lot of different sports. There's always those one or two teams who just don't look like they have it together in non-league season, and then something clicks, whether it's players, the coaches, motivation, and then they just steamroll through league. So it's cool to see, that just because this team struggled early on, they didn't give up on themselves. They still believed they could win, and the Inland Valley League boys soccer, you mentioned, that's another league that has been a meat grinder at times. And for the Huskies to come up has definitely been impressive.
Yeah, I think from top to bottom, and Dennis Pope, who's our soccer guru, would agree with this, that, the Inland Valley League top to bottom is probably our toughest league in the entire Land Empire with, Riverside Poly. We mentioned Valley View. Arlington's a good side. I know, let's see, Rancho Verde's had some good teams in the past. So, and JW North, all of a sudden you got to throw their name in the mix as well, as they've kind of emerged from, I don't want to say out of nowhere, because Tad Barton's been at JW North a long time and has had some success, but at least in recent years, Riverside Poly and Valley View were those two teams that you could count on battling for the league championship, and then also making deep playoff runs as well.
We're seeing this in a couple of leagues this year. We do have some of those old guard teams, but a lot of teams getting those first titles. You mentioned in boys hoops, Tahquitz first title, Temecula Valley first one in a while. La Sierra's getting an outright title. They hadn't done that. It's going to be interesting to see, whether this can be sustained over the long run. I think the team for me in boys basketball that's maybe come out of nowhere the most isn't actually a league champion, though. It's Moreno Valley. Last year, the Vikings were 2-14 overall, 1-9 in league. Just didn't have anything to show that they'd be competitive. And right now they're 6-2 in league, and they've been really consistently good all year. They're going to be over 500, and they have a great freshman shooter in Chris Williams. So I think the Vikings, for me, have been the year's most pleasant surprise, if you will, in boys basketball.
I think you could maybe say the same thing for the Moreno Valley girls team, who, according to Coach Remington over there, was, I think, 4-60 the past several years, and then he showed up, and now they're battling La Sierra for second place in the River Valley League, and they play head-to-head actually on Thursday night, and they're in prime position to make the playoffs. And that was kind of their goal, was to turn around that team, the culture, and and start thinking about playoffs. And not only are they thinking about playoffs, but they're probably going to punch their ticket to the postseason, finishing third in the River Valley League. So it's nice to see these programs have a change for the better.
Absolutely, you always want to see that, because once you get stuck in that 6, 7, 8 year cycle of losing, it becomes even harder, because now you have that mental drag. But really, we've seen a lot of programs, 2 years is really a lot of times all it takes for you to really turn it around, just because new players come in, other players graduate, something clicks, and before you know it, you're in the playoff hunt.
New schools pop up, they start taking some of your kids and whatnot, so there's a lot of factors that go into it. And we haven't talked wrestling much on this show, at least, but big shout out to some of the schools that won CIF team duels, CIF titles over the weekend. Let's see, I got Temecula Valley, Bloomington. Who were the other two?
Temescal Canyon and Carter.
So those are teams who won duels. We've got the individuals coming up, not this Friday and Saturday, but the following, and then Masters after that, and of course the state tournament up at Rabobank Arena in Bakersfield. And we should have some guys going very deep. I like the 138-pound category, and I always butcher his name. It's the guy from Bloomington.
Uzo Awamo.
That sounds about right.
I apologize if I butchered it, but yeah, he's been really consistently good. I mentioned him in my column a few weeks ago. Derek Jones goes out. People think, okay, Bloomington, not much to pay attention to here. Well, they go out and win a duel, and this guy's been top 5 in the weight class the entire year.
Yeah, and he's got Santiago's Mike Longo also in that same weight class. So that would be a fantastic match. They'll probably see each other at Masters, but even further down the road at State if the brackets work out that way. So we could have some guys making a deep state playoff state runs as well. And Santiago finished 6th, I think 6th, 5th or 6th. as a team last year. Longo was 6th individually at the state tournament last year. So we'll see how our state guys do. There's a handful of them. And as you mentioned, Bloomington won without Derek Jones, who will not defend his state title.
Yeah, one other guy I'm going to watch. I love watching the heavies go. Roosevelt. Speak of butchering names.
Abdul
Latif.
Yes.
He's been ranked 2nd in his weight class, 285, for a while now. I think he's firmly in the conversation as a guy who can go up and win state.
He was so good last year. I saw him at the Riverside County Championships, and the guy I was standing next to, I said, dude, didn't he graduate? There's no way he could be back. He's like, no, he's back, and he's even better. So, we're definitely a state title contender for Roosevelt in the heavyweight division. So we'll be back next Wednesday from Adrenaline Athletic Training. It's good to be back here in Riverside. They've got the boot camp, Kyle, the basketball kids. They're really breaking it down, and
soccer boys,
and some soccer too. So there's a lot going on here, and eventually we'll get out there with them as well, right, and try to run around a little bit.
Hey, we're broadcasting from inside the batting cage right now. I would love to start taking some hacks.
We are.
Spring is upon us.
I might need the tee, though. I might need to hit off a tee.
Man, crank that thing up to 85 for me.
All right, so I'm Pep Fernandez. That's Kyle Glazer. Once again, thank you so much to Adrenaline Athletic Training. We're here in Riverside, and we'll be back next Wednesday, and we'll talk playoffs. Yeah, we'll talk playoffs as we'll kind of break down some of the brackets for basketball and soccer, and then we'll also know a little bit more about the water polos once those the carousels wrap up this week. So for Kyle, I'm Pep, and we'll see you again next Wednesday right here on the Blitz.